I'm Kate Hannah. I'm a 24-year-old fashion designer and I'm in the process of starting my own label called Pajunk. With my fashion design practice, I am a sustainable fashion designer. So what that means for me is using recycled materials in my work. So I am a big op shopper. I go to all the op shops around me and collect different supplies. I basically just buy them and repurpose them, whether it's like cutting it up and patching it together or like bleaching it, ripping it, mixing it with new elements as well, just things like that to make it into something new and funky. It's important to me to have that more hand-done, slow fashion approach in the face of just all the fast fashion that is out there now. Getting into fashion was kind of a bit of a roundabout journey. I grew up out in the country in a small town called Darkin. Back then, of course, it wasn't like a serious thing. It was just going to visit my nan and having a bit of fun, knitting little scarves. I was always like that real arty kid into painting and like sculpture and things like that. In the end, when I went through high school, I decided maybe I'll study something more in health sciences so that then I can have that as a career. So initially when I first went to uni, I started studying psychology. And then in my second year, I took an elective in the fashion department, which was fashion design and illustration. And it was from that I sort of thought maybe this is something that I could pursue because I really enjoyed that unit and was feeling a little bit disillusioned with my psychology studies. Then I made that choice to completely change my study pathway, and that's how I ended up getting into fashion, just by taking a chance on a dream, as corny as it sounds. But yeah, I took a chance on it and I think it's paid off for me because I'm really happy with where I'm at now. In my work, I love using colour and I just love using elements that make people happy. I think it also comes from my days studying psychology and just seeing sort of the sadness that people can go through. So I think that would sort of be where it mainly comes from. Even though I didn't end up becoming a practicing counsellor or psychologist, I still want to do my bit for the world and help people be happier. So I feel like it's kind of come from there, just to sort of bring a little bit of cheer to the world when there's so many people that maybe aren't feeling so cheerful. So I'm doing what I can. So with my process when I'm starting a new piece, usually I'll have done ideation and worked out what I'm doing roughly beforehand. But for me, a lot of it is really materials driven. Because I'm using recycled textiles, that does limit, what I could kind of do with the textile in question. So I make a bit of an idea, work out what I'm using, gather my materials and just sort of start making it and see how it evolves. So generally for me, a sketch at the start will evolve quite a bit by the time it becomes a finalised design. So during the production, I might think, I think that needs bleaching, so I'll literally just take it outside and just toss some bleach on it and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, well, it doesn't work out and I can change it and do something different with it. I tend to just freehand it a little bit when it comes to my design process. I don't like to be too locked in. I prefer to improvise a bit along the way. It's a bit of a journey making each piece. Like my pieces being so hand done do take quite a while to resolve. So each one, by the time it's done, it's a real creative journey. I like to think that people can see that when they look at the pieces. My favourite way of getting my work out there is generally through runway, just because it's just such a process of organising a show, and it's fun to actually have that kind of input and curate this real experience where people are able to be in a place and see the garment physically going down the runway with music to match and lighting and like visual effects going as well. I think that kind of presentation, or like an installation, something like that, is my favourite way to present. Installations are good because it gives people the chance to touch and feel and see things up close, which for photos, you don't get that same kind of tactile approach to the pieces. Pajunk was actually the name of my graduate collection, which it kind of just fitted everything so well that I've just continued using it as a name now for everything that I do. So I was brainstorming words, and Pajunk came out as a mix of punk and junk. So the junk represents the sustainable element because I'm taking trash and turning it into treasure basically, and the punk element at the start is just from the punk influence that I bring through in my work. You might not necessarily look at it and think punk straight away, but what I was more aiming to do is take the ideas of punk and just recontextualize them and use them in my own way through my work. Pajunk is sort of just growing as I grow as an artist basically and as a designer. So new elements are kind of being brought in. Like it started just as that real raw idea from uni, and now that I'm out in the real world, I'm just sort of picking up new things along the way and maybe bringing in a real wearable element to it now that I'm making my pieces for people to wear and not just for uni assignments. It's definitely evolving more in that direction towards being something that people can buy and own rather than just exhibition pieces. Over time, the more that I've designed, the more of myself has going to come into it, like the colours and all of those elements. When I first started designing as a student at uni, it wasn't as colourful as what it is now. So sort of the more I've grown as an artist and the more confident that I've become as a person too, I think. More of that has kind of come through, and I've found myself and found my style, found what I like and found what I enjoy doing. So I think that it's sort of come through in my work as well, the more I grow. I really enjoy making my own briefs and working to my own specifications just because I'm a perfectionist. So I have no worries with time management and not getting things done. So I find that being able to make my own ideas of what I'm doing and executing them, I find it really good because it makes me do my best work. Because being a perfectionist, I'm harsh on myself when it comes to getting things done and getting them done to a standard that I want. So it's handy for me because I can do whatever I want, but at that same time, I'm controlling myself and being a bit of a taskmaster to make sure that I'm doing what needs to be done. So it's a bit of a balance really between like being creative but also being on top of things. I think that as my work progresses, I think it's just going to get more and more fun, to be honest. Like now that I'm out of uni and am completely controlling all my own stuff, like making my own brief basically. I think it's just a really true representation of who I am and the ideas that I have. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what comes over the next few years once my label's up and running, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.